Karen Martinez had always been someone who found joy in small gestures. After 40 years of marriage to David, she'd developed a routine that felt like love in its purest form. Every morning before he left for work, she'd make him coffee and breakfast. It wasn't about obligation. It was about those quiet moments together at the kitchen table before the day pulled them apart. They'd built a life on consistency, on showing up for each other in the everyday moments that nobody else noticed. Over 4 decades, that ritual had become the foundation of their marriage. David used to say that those mornings were what made everything else manageable. Even on difficult days, knowing Karen would be there with coffee and warmth made the chaos of the world feel temporary and bearable. 95% of viewers aren't subscribed. Subscribing is free, takes seconds, and makes a real impact. Click subscribe and be part of the growth. Please turn on the bell for more updates. When her son Marcus and his wife Jennifer had to stay with them temporarily due to water damage in their home, Karen saw it as an opportunity to extend that same kindness. The contractors had told them 3 to 4 weeks, maybe longer if the flooring repairs complicated things. There was talk of mold remediation, subflooring replacement, all the devastating details that came with water damage to a home. The insurance company was already being difficult about coverage, which only added stress to an already overwhelming situation. Karen welcomed them warmly, offered them a place to land, and settled into the rhythm of having a full house again. She was thrilled, actually. She hadn't realized how much she missed having her son close by. Marcus was 32 now, lived about 40 minutes away, and their weekly phone calls couldn't replicate the comfort of him being nearby. Having him under her roof again felt like a gift, even under these difficult circumstances. Marcus and Jennifer arrived on a Thursday evening in early September. They were grateful, tired from dealing with insurance adjusters and cleanup crews all week long. The house had smelled like wet carpet and chemicals for days. Jennifer's clothes were still mostly in storage in the garage, packed into plastic bins. Both of them looked defeated by the logistics of displacement, the uncertainty of how long this situation would last. Over breakfast the next morning, Karen asked if they wanted coffee, if they wanted anything special before heading to work. Both had to maintain their jobs despite everything falling apart around them. Jennifer worked as a marketing manager downtown at a tech firm, and Marcus was in pharmaceutical sales with a territory stretching across 3 counties. They said no to food, but yes to coffee. Jennifer said she'd take whatever Karen made. It seemed simple and uncomplicated. Karen made 2 extra cups and placed them on the table with care. She asked them to let her know if they wanted her to adjust anything, if they had preferences about cream or the blend she used. She genuinely wanted them to feel comfortable, to know that hospitality meant something real in this house. That first week was normal, even pleasant in many ways. Jennifer took her coffee black. Marcus preferred his with cream and a little sugar. Karen remembered both preferences without writing them down. She'd been managing details like this for decades, understanding that the small preferences were what made people feel known and truly cared for. Everyone seemed content. There were no complaints, no special requests, no demands of any kind. Jennifer would sometimes thank her, and Marcus would mention how nice it was to have a hot breakfast waiting before work, how much it eased his morning stress. Karen felt that familiar satisfaction that came from taking care of people she loved. It reminded her of when Marcus was younger, and she'd packed his lunch before school every morning, how he'd trusted her completely. David was pleased too, seeing his son happy and settled, even if the circumstances bringing them together weren't ideal. It was on the 6th day that things shifted. Jennifer sent Karen a text message around 11 p.m. after everyone had gone to bed. The message was polite, but formal in a way that felt different from their earlier interactions. It said she'd left instructions for her coffee on the counter. Jennifer explained that she had very specific needs in the morning, dietary preferences and morning routines that helped her manage stress and anxiety. She wanted to make sure Karen understood exactly how to prepare it, so there wouldn't be any confusion or miscommunication. She emphasized that this was important to her, something she'd been doing for several years. She ended the message with a thank you and an emoji, but something in the tone felt like a line had been drawn. Karen saw the message when she got home from her night shift around 6:30 in the morning. She was exhausted. Her body ached. She'd worked 8 hours under fluorescent lights at the hospital where she worked as a night shift nurse, dealing with emergencies and chaos and people in crisis. A patient had coded around 3 a.m., and the emotional weight of that unsuccessful resuscitation had left her completely depleted. All she wanted was to sleep. But she read the message. Instructions. On the counter. When Karen made her way to the kitchen to make David his coffee, she found them. 3 pages of handwritten notes in Jennifer's neat, precise handwriting. Not suggestions, not preferences. Instructions. Detailed, specific instructions that read almost like a formal contract. The pages outlined a process that looked less like making coffee and more like a chemistry experiment. Foamed milk on top, created using a specific technique that required aerating the milk to a particular thickness. 2 different syrups added at precise moments in the process, with exact measurements specified. A specific coffee bean variety that needed to be ground fresh, with particular grind settings Karen would need to reference. A brewing method that required equipment her simple drip coffee machine could not produce. There were temperature specifications, exact timing notes that took up an entire page. The instructions were meticulous. They were demanding. They were elaborate and professional grade in their specificity. At the bottom, Jennifer had written that she'd brought equipment to make this easier, and it was sitting on the counter by the toaster, still in its packaging. Karen looked at the bottles and the grinder and the metal pitcher. She looked at the 3 pages of notes. It was 6:35 a.m. She had 2 hours before she needed to sleep so she could work again the next night. She was standing in her own kitchen in her work scrubs, which smelled like hospital antiseptic and exhaustion. Her feet hurt. Her back hurt from helping move a patient who'd fallen. She'd strained something in her lumbar spine again. Karen stood there in her work clothes, running the words over and over in her mind. She was 63 years old. She'd worked through the entire night. Her eyelids felt heavy. Her body felt heavy. She looked at the coffee maker she'd owned for 15 years. She looked at the notes again, trying to understand what would happen if she didn't follow them exactly. Would Jennifer be upset? Would Marcus say something to her about it? Would this temporary living situation become even more complicated? What did it mean to be hospitable versus to allow yourself to be taken advantage of? Where was the line between generosity and self-sacrifice? Karen didn't have answers, and she was too tired to find them. Karen made regular coffee. She made it the way she always did. 1 cup for David, 1 for Marcus, 1 for Jennifer. She made it in 15 minutes, not the 45 minutes that Jennifer's detailed instructions seemed to require. She used her regular beans and her regular drip machine. She set the 3 cups on the table and went to bed. She didn't overthink it. She was too tired to overthink it. When Jennifer came down for breakfast before work, she took 1 look at her coffee and asked if Karen had made it according to the instructions. Her voice was casual, but something underneath it wasn't. Karen said no. She said she'd made regular coffee, the kind she always made. Jennifer's face shifted. She looked at the cup like it had disappointed her personally. Jennifer set it down without tasting it, and said that if Karen wasn't going to make the coffee properly, she shouldn't have offered in the first place. She said that when you invite someone to do something, you follow through. You do it right. You don't make a half effort. Karen, running on 4 hours of sleep across 2 days, standing in her own kitchen in her pajamas, responded that she was not a Starbucks barista. She was a tired mother-in-law, making coffee in her own kitchen before going to bed. She wasn't going to perform elaborate procedures with specialty equipment to satisfy someone else's morning beverage preferences, no matter the instructions. She was being hospitable by opening her home. She was being hospitable by making coffee at all. The conversation escalated quickly. Jennifer said she felt disrespected, that this was about basic hospitality and effort and consideration. Karen said that basic hospitality was already being extended. She'd opened her home. Jennifer left the house angry. She didn't drink the coffee. She texted Marcus before reaching her car. That afternoon, Marcus texted his mother. He said that Jennifer had been upset. He said that Karen hadn't been hospitable. He said that if she wasn't willing to accommodate requests, maybe this arrangement wasn't working out. He didn't raise his voice in the text. He didn't make accusations. But the implication was clear. Karen had failed some test she didn't know she was taking. She had disappointed her son. Karen couldn't sleep that day, even though she desperately needed to. She lay in bed thinking about the text, replaying the conversation, wondering if she'd been unreasonable. She thought about the 3 pages of instructions. She thought about what hospitality actually meant. She thought about the difference between kindness and obligation, between generosity and servitude. She thought about working night shifts exhausted and being asked to perform tasks that required energy and patience she didn't have. She thought about her son taking his wife's side, implying somehow that her boundaries were selfish. By evening, she still didn't have answers. All she had was the weight of knowing that something had shifted in her home. The warmth had cooled. The gratitude had been replaced with something else entirely. The coffee that she'd made with care had become a test, and she'd failed it. Or she'd passed it by refusing to fail herself. She genuinely couldn't tell which anymore, and in that uncertainty, the real conflict had begun. Thanks for watching Story Frame. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more updates. See you in the next video.